companies then. ESEF, Small Finance Bank, their 463 crore IPO has opened for subscription today. Out of this 463 crores, 391 crores will be fresh issue, and the offer for sale will be approximately 73 odd crores. We have Mr. Paul Thomas, who's the MD and CEO of the bank, joining in to discuss the IPO details. Thank you, sir, for joining in. If you could just start by telling us, you are raising around 463 odd crores. How much of this is going to go directly into your balance sheet?
See, the 390 crores is the primary issue that will help us to enhance the capital adequacy of the bank. So currently the capital adequacy is 20.5. So we will be able to improve at least 3 to 3.75% of the capital adequacy on that, and that will help us to meet the requirement for the growth for next 1 to 2 years.
So your growth requirements for the next 1 to 2 years will be met through this IPO. But, you know, I was just looking at a couple of data points and your risk factors for the business as well. There is a high dependence on business correspondence for growth, also a high dependence on promoter entity for the business. I mean, it accounts for nearly 75% of your overall business. What exactly explains that, and how do you mitigate this risk?
See, the business correspondence is a regulation. This regulation came in 2005. And when we built our strategy in 2014 for apply for the small finance bank, we adopted this business correspondent as a strategy to reach out to the last mile and for the sourcing and servicing of these customers. So that is the whole story of the BC model. Today we have 22 institutional business correspondents spread across the different regions of our country. And when we started the business in 2017, ISAF, the cooperative, which is one of the group entity, was already acting as a BC for the microfinance company. So we continued that relationship. And since they were the first one, they are as of today, they are holding the 75% of the microfinance business. But it is it's coming down because from 2019 onwards, we have onboarded the other business correspondents. And now in this phase, I think that concentration will come down. So that's our take on that.
So, you know, sir, I wanted your thoughts on the margins, because, you know, if you look at your own business profile, the margins have expanded quite a bit. Mr. Thomas, this question is for you, and then I'll go across to Mr. Girish as well. But Mr. Thomas, you know, on margins, your NIMs are at almost 13.5%, which is way higher than most of your peers. Is this something that is sustainable, and can you build on to this? Or because we generally see that before the IPO or, you know, before listing, some of these internals sort of get inflated. I'm not saying that that is the case with ESAF, but just trying to understand whether you can build on to these margins, and how come, you know, compared to all of your peers, you're much, much higher.
And so even before the COVID, we have been maintaining that 10+ percentage of NIM. And because of the COVID slippages during the 21 and 22 financial year, it has come down. But on financial year 23, it was 9.5, and now we are sure that we'll be able to maintain at a 10% level.
Okay. Mr. Girish, you know, if you could answer this question, just wanted to understand that there have been multiple reminders from the Reserve Bank of India in terms of y'all are, you know, for y'all to eventually hit the markets and get listed. Plus, there was a possible threat of cancellation of your license as well. Can you just take us through a couple of these points and your clarification on it?
Yeah, as far as the SFB licensing conditions are concerned, we were supposed to list our shares before 31st of July 2021. Well in advance, in 2019 itself, we have started the process and got the final clearance for our DRHP, which was filed on January 6th, 2020, but the final clearance we got only on the 20th of March 2020. We all know that immediately after that the prolonged lockdown happened, and that is the reason why the listing got delayed. We were in the continuous process of getting our shares listed in the stock exchanges, but because of the COVID impact, we could not do. Yes, it is true that RBI is following up for early listing, not only with ISAF Bank, but we understand that all banks, the licensing conditions are being followed up by RBI on a continuous basis.
All right. You said your NIMs are likely to be maintained around that 10 to 11% mark as well. But, if I look at your numbers, there has been a marked improvement in the first quarter of FY24. Your NIMs have gone up from 9 to 11% to around 14%. Your ROE has increased from 19% to around 28%. Return on assets too, from 1.6% to 2.5%. Usually this happens before the company, goes in for IPO. Are these numbers sustainable is the question. This marked improvement that you've seen, or was it because, you're going into an IPO, the street believes that just before an IPO, you put the best picture forward?
It is not like that. During the last 2 years, FY21 and 22, there were higher slippages to our case in line with the industry which has experienced the most, worst hit because of the additional NPA which was fallen out because of the COVID impact. Now, in FY23, we have substantially cleaned up our books, and the NPA numbers also have been brought down. So, in view of this, there were no interest reversals which is happening nowadays, and this has improved our NIMs to the sustainable, level. But having said so, on an ongoing basis, as Paul sir was, mentioning, we are back to the pre-COVID stage as of now, and the NIM is almost sustainable at the level of 10% almost.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, just before we let you go, you have alluded to this improvement in terms of your gross NPAs and net NPAs all the way from 6 to 7% in FY21-22 to maybe even sub 1% at this point in time. Tell us, how do we ensure that there's no risk in terms of the asset quality and that the entire book is cleaned up? Because this has been an absolute significant improvement which has taken place in terms of asset quality.
See, we have been in this microfinance business for the last 30 years. So we have seen multiple cycles like this, and we have got a strong faith in the customers whom we serve and the geographies we serve. We have seen this in the past, and we are very sure that this asset quality will continue like this. If unlike any situation like COVID, like pan-India lockdowns, anything happens, otherwise this will continue.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Gentlemen, thanks a lot for joining in and all the best for the IPO. We'll slip into a quick break on that note. On the other side, Sanjay Lodha, the Chairman and Managing Director at NetWeb Technologies, will be joining in to discuss their Q2 performance. Stay tuned.